Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 162 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I am Tanner Dillon, and as always, I am joined by Sam Gotzi. Sam, how are we doing today, my friend?
It's a little sad day. We don't have any college basketball for the first time in what seems like forever. But luckily it's right around the corner. But yeah, it's kind of tough right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Sweet 16 games will be starting today, day of release, on Thursday. Um, you want to hear a really sad stat?
What's that?
You know how many games we have left?
16.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it's I think it might be 15 actually, which is even worse. We have less games remaining, or either same or less games remaining than what was on the first day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is 15.
That's
Yeah,
really
that
sad.
sucks.
That's really sad, but we do have a Sweet 16 to cover, as well as the first two rounds, round of 64 and round of 32 in each division. But before we get to all that, of course, as always, we will start with winners and losers. So, Sam, hit me with your winner.
Yeah, my winner is going to be on the wrestling mat. This one made shocking news. Now, while everyone was tuned into March Madness, I know we were. There's some shocking news in the wrestling community. The heavy favorite, four-time heavyweight champ, Gable Stevenson, was upset by Oklahoma State's Wyatt Hendrickson. So he is my winner today. Won a nice match, 5-4, in was being called the biggest upset in the NCAA history.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know much about wrestling, but first off, that reaction was awesome. It looked absolutely electric. Um, I've heard of Gable Stevenson before. I know he's really good, and I have no idea if it truly is the biggest upset, but I just still can't get over the minute he pins him or takes him down, and the place goes absolutely crazy. Um, was pretty awesome to see, man. So it was a pretty cool moment for sure. So shout out, what was his name again?
Wyatt Hendrickson.
Shout out Wyatt Hendrickson. For my winner, I am going to go with Roger Ayers. Now you may be sitting there thinking, who? Roger Ayers was a referee in the first round of the NCAA tournament. He was reffing the Liberty versus Oregon game, a game that, much to Sam's dismay, Oregon did handle comfortably. And towards the end of the game, in an absolute blowout, the Liberty head coach sent a sub over to the table to try and get him in get him in an NCAA tournament game. Was something that he hasn't, something that is a once in a lifetime opportunity for some of these kids, in an absolute blowout. And with about a minute left, there was a running clock, and teams weren't moving, and looked like they were just going to run the clock out, and this kid would not have a chance to play in a game. So ref Roger Ayers called timeout to clean up a wet spot that wasn't there, but to allow the subs to come in and get him a moment in the NCAA tournament, which was pretty awesome. And a sport, obviously, when in sports we so often just absolutely destroy referees for their calls. It was pretty cool to see a referee on a positive moment for once, and to no one's surprise, there are also a bunch of people who are upset at this. Because of course they are saying that refs shouldn't be able to affect the game like that. If you are upset at this, please just stop. just log off of online and look inward for a minute. But in a 20 plus point game, pretty cool to get someone into the game that wouldn't have otherwise gone. So Roger Ayers, shout out to you.
Yeah, that was super cool. And if people are really hating it, what the hell? Yeah, I think you nailed it. Check yourself if you're upset about this. It's a super cool moment for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But of course, we will turn over and look at the other side of things. Sam, who is your loser of the episode?
Yeah, my loser, Tanner, is a guy who used to be loved, but not so much anymore. Of course, I'm talking about UConn's own Dan Hurley.
Is this the hat trick? Is that his third time being a
I
loser?
think
This might be a hat trick.
This dude is just building up a hell of a resume. Basically, after their loss to Florida, close loss 70-75, he was first he had like a post game conference with the sideline reporter, and he was like crying almost. And then a couple minutes later, he is saying to Baylor as they're staying, waiting to enter the court, he goes, "I hope they don't F you like they effed us. I hope they don't do that to you, Baylor." And he said it like 5-6 times over and over again. And a guy by the name Joey Ellis caught it on camera, posted it to X, the Everything app, of course. And the UConn's director of communications, Bobby Mullen, reportedly threatened to ruin Ellis's life if he did not remove the video.
Oh my God.
So that's just absolutely brutal. But I like to say it's surprising, but in all reality, it's not.
Yeah, Danny Hurley. what a figure he is at the moment. Look, I don't think. Fact of the matter, he's a dickhead. Embrace the dickhead. That's part of the reason why you're such a good basketball coach. You're a dickhead. UConn fans, now, of course, not everyone, but in general, they'll be like, someone will come out and say, "Hey, Danny Hurley, yeah, he's a dickhead." And then they'll be like, "What? No, you can't say that. No, like, no, he's no, he's a dickhead. He's an absolute dickhead." But I don't want him to change. I don't want him to get fired. I want him to change. I just want to refer to him what he is. He's a cocky dickhead. And that's part of the reason why he's a good coach.
Yeah. As much as I don't like him, he's amazing for college basketball.
Exactly.
Dan Hurley's a dickhead. Let's throw Rick Pitino in there. Let's be honest. Majority of the good coaches are dickheads, dude. And that's what makes this sport what it is. And that's why rivalries throughout the regular season, when it comes down the stretch, that definitely has an impact on the greatness of college basketball for sure.
College basketball runs on dickhead head coaches. When everyone except Duke fans hates Duke because they don't like Coach K and they don't like Duke. When everyone hates Bill Self in Kansas. When everyone hates, going back to Bobby Knight in Indiana. The sport runs on coaches who everyone can agree, we don't like you. Yeah. You are a douchebag. Everyone who is not a fan of that team. So this is needed. I don't want him to change. Don't want him to get fired. But hey, you're a dickhead. That's where we can leave that. But yeah, dude. And then was it the athletic director you said?
The director of communications.
Director of communications. I got no words for that one. That's a. Yeah.
Shout out Joey Elliott. He didn't delete the.
Yes.
So shout out the boy.
Hopefully your life is not ruined. I don't know what is he a UConn writer? That would be pretty tough if he was.
I'd kind of respect it.
Though. Yeah, even more.
Kind of respect it.
I'm sure someone else will give him a job from that fact alone that he didn't compromise his integrity to.
Oh yeah.
To give in to a bully, essentially.
Yeah. I'll do some research.
Okay, I like that.
You break it down.
I like that.
Queen City News Reporter.
Queen City News Reporter.
So I think that's where the game was now where Queen City is, but I'm pretty sure it's in North Carolina area. If that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, a good thing you didn't take it down. Shout out to you. Dan really doing the whole emotional thing, and then that's a new one for sure.
Mid Michigan, not North Carolina. He's a mid. Yeah. So.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, for my loser, Sam.
I lied. He used to work for Mid Michigan. He now works for Caroline's own Queen City News. So I was right.
Okay. Used to work in Michigan. Now works in Carolina. This game, I assume, was in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Got it. So. Okay. Okay. But for my loser, we had this one is basketball related as well. This one was some unfortunate news over I think it was it yesterday where this occurred, but it is Juju Watkins, the best player in women's college basketball, in the middle of the number one seeded USC in their game against Mississippi State. She tore her ACL, which obviously really sucks. Top tier player, number one overall seed, making a run for the national championship. And she goes down with an ACL. Now, I don't know if you don't know or aren't familiar with Juju Watkins or her game. First off, get familiar. She's unbelievable at basketball. It'd be the same as it's LeBron tearing his ACL in a finals run. It's Cooper Flagg tearing his ACL in this March Madness. It's about as as top as high quality a player as you're going to get in women's college basketball at this current stage. So that was really unfortunate. Her team's really talented. Doesn't mean they can't win a national championship without her. But I know how tough it is to watch your teammates play when you can't be there because of injury. So
Yeah,
tough situation.
that's brutal. She's an absolute bucket for sure. But yeah, seeing that goes down, luckily she's young and will probably bounce back. It's not a season ending or career ending injury like it was 10, 15 years ago for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. She will be back and better than ever. Thank God for medicinal advancements. But Sam, I do have some breaking news.
Was that
Breaking news: the New York Giants have a new quarterback. The New York Giants and Russell Wilson have agreed to a 1 year, $21 million deal.
I hate that for Jameis.
So, yeah, Jameis, he's still out there. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the Vikings backup. I would like that a lot.
No, he signed with the Giants.
Oh, Jameis signed. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Okay, you're right. I'm so locked in on basketball. He signed with the Giants. I thought for some reason that they had just visited him, but he signed with the Giants. Yeah, and now Russell Wilson has signed as well. So quarterback competition in New York between Jameis and Russell Wilson. But should we get into the bracket?
Let's get it.
Because we had 32 awesome basketball games. Or I guess
32.
Okay, yeah, not all were awesome. It was an awesome time watching college basketball all day. Obviously, is a very common topic that March so far. The first two rounds of March or the opening weekend of March didn't hit as well as they normally do. Not that many upsets, not that many close games, but we will get all of that in a minute. So we'll go region by region here. We'll start in the South region. The Sweet 16 teams representing the South are Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Michigan State. That's a 1, 5, 6, and 2 seed. Starting in the first round, Sam, any games pop out to you that you want to talk about first?
I mean, the Louisville Creighton game, that was an obvious miss by me. I made a TikTok about it a couple days ago. Yeah, that was tough. Creighton came out absolutely scorching fire. And Louisville just had no answers. Chucky Hepburn versus the hottest team in the nation that day. Another one, Michigan, UC San Diego. Believe it or not, when you have two 7-footers, that causes a little bit of problems for mid majors. So that was kind of disappointing. We thought that'd be the potential of a Cinderella this season, but honestly, pretty chalky across the board in the first round. So nothing too exciting, but yeah, still good basketball regardless.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, not only was it chalky, it was like the games weren't close. I mean, Auburn beat Alabama State by 20. Creighton beat Louisville by what ended up being 14. It was like 25 at one point. Michigan UCSD. Now that was an awesome basketball game. Michigan had control for most of the game. Then UCSD makes a run at the end. Had a shot or had a possession at the end of regulation. Didn't really get a good shot off. Texas A&M handled Yale. Was at an arm's length the entire way. Ole Miss kind of beat the crap out of UNC. UNC mounted a second half comeback, but still never really got um, never really got close there. Iowa State beat the absolute piss out of Lipscomb. New Mexico controlled Marquette, and obviously Michigan State beat Bryant by 25. So it's going to be a theme across a lot of them, but this region in particular, Michigan and UCSD really was the best game here. And the only lower seed to win a game was New Mexico over Marquette, which we all know 10/7 doesn't really count as a.
And if you want,
I guess the 8-9,
but I wouldn't personally.
The 8-9 there as well. What a performance by Creighton, by the way, just off the start, didn't seem to miss. Completely dominated Louisville in every sense of the word. But getting into the second round, I think a lot of these games kind of followed the same formula.
Yeah, I expected that Auburn Creighton game to be a little closer. Was back and forth, and then Auburn kind of took over. We talked about on our episode with Eric about Iowa State missing Keyshawn Gilbert, and that fully came into fruition. Ole Miss absolutely beat the brakes off of Iowa State. Wasn't even a competitive game. But yeah, Michigan State struggled a little bit there in the first half. It was back and forth. Donovan Dent kept New Mexico in this game, but at the end of the day, the better teams all kind of won out in this region for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, this like formula I'm talking about, like Texas A&M, Michigan, that was a close game until it wasn't. Until Michigan went on a run late and really took control. Auburn, Creighton, that was a really close game until it wasn't. Until Auburn went on a run late. Obviously, we mentioned Iowa State, Ole Miss beating the brakes off Iowa State. Michigan State definitely struggled a little bit as well. I think this is the issue when it comes to the Michigan State team. They aren't as prolific offensively as some of the past iterations of Tom Izzo's team. And was able to sneak by New Mexico only by 8. Definitely struggled a little bit. But in the Sweet 16, Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, Michigan State, what are we looking for?
Can anyone stop those 7-footers of Michigan? I think it's going to be the big story for matchup one. Obviously, Auburn comes into the game with the best big man in the country, Janai Brewing. But when he's facing, it's just a matchup nightmare for anybody, honestly. Facing Michigan, will Bruce Pearl and the Tigers have an answer? That's going to be the biggest storyline heading into that one. And then Ole Miss came into this tournament. Ole Miss, Michigan State's going to be a slugfest. I know Ole Miss went absolutely bonkers against Iowa State, had a hell of an offensive performance, but their MO has been strong defensive presence, and that against Michigan State could be very interesting. Ole Miss is super hot. Can Michigan State's defense settle that down? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, if Ole Miss plays offensively like they did against Iowa State, they're going to be an unbelievably hard team to beat. And I think if they play that way, they will beat Michigan State in this game. What kind of Ole Miss shows up if they play, like you said, their normal pace of play could be on the slower side in this game. But this game is going to be absolutely awesome. I cannot wait. And then Auburn, Michigan. I think the 7-footers. Obviously, we know what's going on with Michigan. Their height, their dominance on the boards. That's the way they like to play. But Auburn, I'm interested to see what the supporting cast does, because the supporting cast is really why they won this game or won the last game against Creighton. I mean, Pettiford with 23 points off the bench for Auburn. Part of the reason why this team is so scary. Janai Broom only had eight against Kalkbrenner and Creighton. So, will the supporting cast continue to show up? Because like Kalkbrenner is probably the best defensive big man in the country. Yeah, like we've said, and everyone said a million times, Michigan's got two of them 7-footers that can D up and play some good defense on Janai Broom. So the supporting cast will need to step up again, like it did against Creighton. Should be two awesome matchups in the Sweet 16. Hopefully, we sacrifice some craziness in the first couple days to have some craziness down the stretch in the Sweet 16 and further down the road. But Sam, I'm gonna need a prediction for each of these games: Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, Michigan State.
I'm gonna go Michigan State, setting up a huge rivalry in the Elite Eight.
I love that. I mean, I think that was we said that when the bracket first came out on the bracket show with Eric, that potential of Michigan State is really, really juicy. It's funny. I was gonna say the exact opposite. So I think I'm gonna go Auburn and Ole Miss. I'm gonna go with the all SEC teams to win in the Sweet 16 for an Elite Eight matchup, which would be pretty freaking awesome. But moving on to the West region, it's safe to say that this game had probably the two best games of this region had probably the two best games of the entire tournament in Florida versus UConn and Colorado State versus Maryland.
Yeah, I'd say. I don't know if I. Yeah, let's go with that. I think Arkansas St. John's was so pitiful. It was fun.
Right. I mean, it was an awesome game. But the good news is that's also in the same region, so it would have all three of the best games in that region. But starting off in the first round, I think I kind of want to start off with Nico Medved in Colorado State with a really impressive performance against Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had talked about this in our bracket show last week. How is that Tyrese Hunter injury going to affect Memphis? PJ Haggerty had to step up big, only scored 18 points in this one, struggled a little bit, wasn't his usual self. Luckily, they had Dane Danger, who kept this game close, but Kyan Evans and Jalen Lake are the story of this game. Two absolute dogs for Colorado State. I'd like to say this was a big upset, but they were favored on the books. So as crazy as a upset with the injury to Hunter and then just being favored was kind of tough to see for sure. But upset nonetheless if you just take into consideration the seeds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they kind of controlled the entirety of the game, which was the impressive part for me. We all picked them to win. They were favored, so I can't say I was surprised by it, but I was really surprised on how they did and how they just kind of dominated from wire to wire. But moving down here, Sam, another head coach that is on the move, Nico Medved, going to Minnesota. And from this region, of course, Ben McCullum going to Iowa and his former Drake Bulldogs taking down the Missouri Tigers in another game that I was really, really impressed with the underdog.
Yeah, again, was a popular upset pick amongst damn near everyone. It was, can Drake control the tempo of this game? And they absolutely did. They just kept the ball out of Missouri's hands. Ben Sturtz is kind of the white boy of the tournament. Just was hitting everything he threw up, and it was fun to watch. But unfortunately, they ran into one of the best teams in the country in that second round. But as much as I like all the upsets so far this season, this March Madness wasn't like a St. Petersburg or Farley Dickinson. I was like, okay, yeah, Drake did, like, it was expected, Um, like I wasn't like, oh my god, Drake won this game. Holy shit. It was just like, okay, yeah, the better team won that day. And it wasn't shocking because they're like what 30, 31, and 4 on the season. In a surprisingly difficult conference in the Missouri Valley this year. So yeah, huge win for Drake in that first round, winning over Missouri. Gotta love that.
Yeah, to put it this way, obviously we know lines aren't the end all be all, but if we want to talk about the lack of madness, the biggest underdog to win was a 7.5 point underdog, which is not very big. It's not a very big spread. And that was McNeese. We will get to later. Drake over Missouri was even tighter than that. That one was a 6.5 spread. So clearly the books and the people knew that this one was a possibility. So yeah, in terms of the craziness factor, not very high. But you mentioned the pace. I mean, it was 100% into Drake's hands. Missouri only scoring 57 points. Drake held them to 33% shooting, 15 for 45, only 45 shots up. Truly an excellent performance from Drake. Really able to dictate the pace of play and play the game that they want to play for sure. And then I think the other first round game we really need to talk about, that's got to be the battle of John Calipari versus Bill Self in that Arkansas-Kansas game. Arkansas, of course, coming out victorious. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, this game it ended in a 7 point victory for the Razorbacks, but kind of seemed like Arkansas was in front the entire game. And the moment the game switched was when KJ Adams went down with that injury. It seemed like Kansas had lost all hope. And it sucks to see injury, but let's not act like KJ Adams was the whole reason Kansas was competitive. Like he had a couple highlight dunks. He's just a super freak athlete. No one's arguing that. But it's not like he's like the guy on this team, given I don't think they have a guy this year on the Jayhawks. But when that injury happened, it was over. That
Right.
you could chalk it up right there that the Hogs were gonna win this one. And fortunately for Coach Cal, got another win over Bill Self. So God love that man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm going to be absolutely clear. Arkansas wins this game whether or not he gets injured. I no doubt in my mind about that. You look at the stats; they may tell a slightly different story. Um, I do think that KJ Adams was Kansas's best overall player in the game. He was the most. He was the most. He brought really an energy that like Kansas looked like they didn't want to be there at all, which is crazy in March for a Bill Self coach team, but. He was really the only one bringing the energy. Zeke Mammon with more points, but I just he was their best player, I think, and he was really the 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 jolt of energy that they needed to stick with Arkansas because Arkansas really controlled this game. There was a late push by Kansas, in the second half. I think was spearheaded by Adams. They got it to within two, maybe. Maybe they took the lead by one. It didn't last long. I really do think Arkansas would have won this game, whether or not he got injured. But of course, like you said, it was a major turning point in what was a really close game, and Arkansas really took firm control after that. But I just really, really what can be said about Kansas that we haven't already said? It's really disappointing performance, not only this year but this specifically this tournament. I mean, you'd think that they have all the talent in the world, man, and to come out as flat as they did, I mean, they just didn't want to be there, which was unbelievable in March.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a tweet about Hunter Dickinson since joining Kansas. They haven't been higher than the fifth overall in in the Big 12. There's talks that he threw the game. Kansas. So the stat I saw was Kansas has won 19 of 22 conference titles before Hunter Dickinson transferred there. In his 2 years there, the Jayhawks finished fifth and sixth, and they only won one NCAA tournament game. To add on to that, Kansas had not lost 8 conference games in 34 straight years before Hunter Dickinson arrived. KU lost 8 and 9 conference games in the 2 years Dickinson was in Lawrence. Obviously, the team success doesn't go down to one person, but Hunter Dickinson definitely didn't help the case for sure.
No, he did not play well in this game. He was 4 for 13, only 11 points. Did not play well at all. And yeah, his era in Lawrence, I mean, the stats are all there. And not to mention 2 preseason number ones, one singular March win, 0 conference titles. Tough, really tough for Kansas. They're gonna need a quick reset because Big 12 is only getting more difficult year after year. But every other game was kind of a blowout in that first round. So we'll move to the second round here in the round of 32. We'll start off first game of the day on Sunday, Florida UConn. This game was freaking awesome.
Yeah, this game was back and forth. It seemed UConn, although they've had a down year, it is March. Dan Hurley will have his boys ready, and to be fair, they did. This one was competitive to the very end. I mean, Alex Condon, one of Florida's best players, finished with 5.7 boards, 4 assists. That absolutely shut him down. Unfortunately, they had no answer for Walter Clayton Jr. Hitting big shot after big shot down the stretch, and it's the real reason why Florida is moved on to Sweet 16.
That's it. I mean, Florida's the better team. Florida has more depth. That's the reason why they won this game. I was really impressed with UConn. I thought UConn would get absolutely stomped on. I was really impressed specifically with Liam McNeely for UConn, the freshman. He had 22. His hands were all over this game, but of course, the story was Clayton with those 23 points, really willing his team to victory. Not much coming off the bench for Florida in this game, only 10 points. And as you mentioned, Condon with 5. Clayton willed him there. And obviously they're going to look for more from other contributors for sure. But really back and forth game, really physical game, which is pretty awesome. And Florida was able to get the win by 2 points. Again, a game I thought they were going to get stomped on. Florida also needs to fix their struggles from the line. They shot 65% in this game, 22 for 34. They're obviously elite at drawing fouls. Got to make free throws when you get there. And part of the reason why this game was so close. Real quick, though, I do have another breaking news. We have another signing.
Oh, man.
Stephon Diggs. Who you heard it here first. Stephon Diggs signed a 3-year, $69 million deal with the New England Patriots. So
bag chasing at this point.
Exactly. But yes, this was an awesome game, back and forth. I think this was the game that really got tension back into it. Like, there was no buzzer beater. There obviously it wouldn't have been a crazy upset. I mean, obviously 8-1 is a pretty crazy upset, but the back-to-back national champs, but you really felt the tension in this game for sure. But Florida with the 2-point victory. Now, I mean, next we got to talk about the buzzer beater we did get, and that's Colorado State and Maryland. Maryland winning 72-71 on Derek Queen's buzzer beater.
Yep, Derek Queen, bucket getter. He demanded the ball. Maryland's best player got it done in the grand scheme of things. But obviously, uh, God talked about the controversy surrounding that. But I mean, people complain all tournament. We haven't gotten this. We haven't gotten this. What happens when you first get it? Complaining. It's just unreal from the community. But everyone loves a good buzzer beater, regardless of the ruling behind it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually really frustrating. We'll get into that in a second. But I also do want to shout out Jalen Lake, really clutch shot down two. Colorado State guard hits a three with about 7 seconds left to put his team up one. Obviously, we're not going to remember that because of the Derek Queen buzzer beater. But Sam, I do got to ask, was it a travel?
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to be honest. I disagree. I don't think he traveled. It's an argument on where you think the dribble stops, and his first step, in which people are claiming he's traveled, is just the ball bouncing back up to him, which is, I think, part of your dribble. So if I was refereeing it, I would not consider that a step. Other people are, and that's fine. Watching it live, I didn't think it was a travel. And yeah, I still don't, but it is really frustrating that where's the madness? Where's the madness? We get madness. Oh my God, he traveled. And if you're a Colorado State fan, absolutely, you ask about that all day long. But for a neutral fan, I think complaining about that is a little crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now moving on. I mean, Drake, Texas Tech. That followed the Auburn, Creighton, Michigan, Texas A&M mold there. That it was really back and forth until Texas Tech took control in the second half and won comfortably. And then, of course, the big one. Really, I mean, the only the only top 3 seed to lose. Is that correct?
Yep.
Or no, Iowa State was the other. Certainly the only top 2 seed to lose was, of course, St. John's going down at the hands of Arkansas.
Yeah, this game was absolutely disgusting. But the story surrounding St. John's going into this tournament was, can they get their offense going? Absolutely not. They were matched by athleticism and size on the Arkansas side of things, and that caused a huge problem for that St. John's offense. They shot 28% from the field, 9% from the 3-point line, 70%, 71% from the free throw. They just got matched in the athleticism department. I don't really think Arkansas played particularly well. In fact, I think they played pretty bad. They shot 10% from three. But when your best player, RJ Lewis, Big East Player of the Year, scores 9 points, and the coach doesn't even put him in the moments when this game was still competitive down the stretch. Absolutely abysmal performance by St. John's. Kadari Richmond fouling out with like 16 minutes left in the game. But I will say the refs were absolute garbage in this game. You had like 3 players with 3 fouls like halfway through the first half, I swear. There were 44 fouls called in this one. Live foul trouble. It seemed the refs had their hands all over this one, unfortunately. But Arkansas got a huge win. Cal versus Patino. Cal wins.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I think the best way you said it was, it just felt like the refs' hands were all over it. People were not playing because of foul trouble. Games were multiple consecutive possessions with off the ball fouls where teams couldn't get in their offense and just shooting free throws. But the moral of the story here, Sam, is that Arkansas out St. John's, or out St. John's, St. John's. It's neither team is, they're both really physical. They both like shooting in the paint. They both aren't great 3-point shooting teams. And Arkansas just made a few more shots than St. John's did. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. And when you look at Arkansas's big time players, Billy Richmond was absolutely sensational off the bench, adding 16 points. He was their leading scorer. And then you look for some of that offense on the St. John's side of things. And you mentioned it, the Big East Player of the Year, R.J. Lewis, was absolutely abysmal. He wasn't just bad, Sam. He was unplayable bad. Just ask their head coach and see whether or not he played down the stretch. 3 for 17 just simply does not cut it. Kadari Richmond, only 5 points. He fouled out, like you said. There's only one reason and one reason only why St. John's was in this game, and that was Zuby Ejiofor inside. He was an absolute beast, but he just didn't have enough to combat this physical Arkansas team. And again, they made shots when they needed to. St. John's didn't. That is the exact reason why this game ended the way it did. And this was the exact problem we talked about with St. John's.
Yep, absolutely.
So as we look forward here to the Sweet 16 matchups, Florida and Maryland, this could be pretty awesome. We've said it once, we've said it a million times. Maryland's starting 5, as good as it gets in the nation. All 5 of them were in double figures against Colorado State. Do they have enough in the tank to go against Florida? And then on the bottom side, Texas Tech, and they go up against Arkansas, which should be another awesome matchup. I tell you what, if Arkansas plays another game like they did against St. John's, I like their chances against Texas Tech. Not a team that wants to get into that kind of mess that Arkansas does. But Sam, give me your thoughts and who's winning.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Arkansas's road ends here. I just think JT Toppin might dominate this Arkansas team. And I just think they're a better team overall. We've seen them the past 2 games get done in multiple ways. So I think Texas Tech pulls it out. And I think Alex Condon bounces back for the Gators. In addition with Walter Clayton, I think he picks up right where he left off. And I think Florida is just too much for the Crab 5, and I got Florida winning that one.
I tell you what, last region, we disagreed. This region, we absolutely do not. I have Florida and Texas Tech as well. Too much talent, too much scoring with those 2 teams. I am going to rock with them. But before we move on to the East region, it is worth mentioning that Crunch Time's very own Sam Godsey, knock on wood, has the perfect region.
So far, we'll see.
We will see. Now, do you have Florida and Texas Tech in there? Florida, and then Florida in the Final Four? Florida. Look, man, 3 more games you got to get right, and that is the region, which would be pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, that would
so shout out. But we'll move over to the East. In the Sweet 16, we have Duke, Arizona, BYU, and Alabama. Duke the 1, Arizona the 4, BYU the 6, and Bama the 2. So we'll start off day 1. Mississippi State Baylor was kind of a fun game, back and forth. I believe it went down to the wire.
Down the stretch, yeah, super fun.
Super fun game. Baylor coming out victorious there. But I got to be honest, the game that was, I think, the next most exciting and the closest was probably that Alabama Robert Morris game.
Yeah, for a little bit there, it was. I thought we were going to get done, but Alabama had other ideas for sure.
Yeah, I think there was a possession. Robert Morris took the lead, I want to say, with like 7 or 8 minutes left in the game, and then they got to stop, and they came down in transition, and one of the Robert Morris guards had an open 3 in transition, and he missed it. If he makes that, I think that is the real turning point, and possibly Alabama kind of plays a little bit tighter knowing that they're on upset alert, but he missed it. Alabama came down, scored, and then the route was on. From there, Alabama won that game. Down the stretch, it was comfortable, not so much for most of the game. So not a ton to talk about on that first in the round of 64. But in the round of 32, we do have some things to talk about here. Duke Baylor, how freaking good is Duke?
Duke is dominant. I've been on them all year. Cooper Flagg, Kai Knipple, Common Mulat, uh, holding it down in the paint. This team is unreal. I mean, they're putting in their 5'8" student manager, grad, whatever you want to call him. And even he's getting like more than 30 seconds of run. This team is absolutely dominant. I expect their dominance to continue throughout the tournament.
No doubt about it. There are no flaws on this Duke team. And shout out Tyrese Proctor. He was unbelievable in this game. 25 points, 9 for 10, Sam. 9 for 10 from the field.
Tied John Shire's record for
most
threes in a tournament game, which is crazy. I wasn't familiar with John Shire's game. I ain't going.
How's the wild meter? That's wild.
It's pretty wild.
That's wild.
It's pretty wild.
Real quick, what's more wild? Tyrese Proctor tied John Shire's record, or I think it was the last, or I don't know if it was the last time, but it was a matchup between Calipari and Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino was at Kentucky, Calipari at UMass. Pitino won, and you know who hit the winning free throws?
Yeah,
it was none other than Mark Pope.
That's wild.
The current coach of Kentucky, all three coaching teams in this tournament. So, wild meters off the charts. But I think probably the best game of this region so far this tournament was Oregon-Arizona. Oregon got out to the really fast start. Arizona came back, really took control of this game. And again, we've said it once, we've said it a million times. Arizona goes as Caleb Love did, and boy, was he good.
Yeah, this was probably his best game of the season. I think he finished with like 29. Absolute dog. When he is on, he is one of the best players in college basketball. Unfortunately, I didn't read that correctly. I thought they were going to get upset by Akron. Boy, was I wrong. But Caleb Love, I said it, I'll say it again. This team goes as far as Caleb Love goes, and setting up a huge matchup between Duke and him. It's going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah, a team and a player that may know each other fairly well. Obviously, Caleb Love on that UNC team that took out Coach K in his last game at Cameron, and then, of course, in the Final Four as well. But I was really impressed with Arizona in this game. I tell you what, I was all over Oregon. Part of the reason why I picked Akron was because I thought Oregon was going to beat Arizona. So I thought might as well take the upset. And I was very confident in that. Oregon got out to the 19-4 lead. And I was like, yeah, I read this perfectly. Boy, did this game flip on a dime. And Arizona was excellent. Obviously, Caleb Love, we mentioned him, very efficient, 10 for 18, which, I mean, for him is unbelievably efficient. We've all seen the 4 for 19 games that he's had all year long. But yeah, real impressive stuff from Caleb Love here, not allowing his Arizona Wildcats to go home. Okay, when I said Arizona Oregon was the best game, maybe I was selling BYU Wisconsin a little short, because this game was pretty good too, down to the wire. Wisconsin trying to mount a late comeback, almost did, but the BYU Cougars are going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it was a absolutely putrid last possession for Wisconsin. Gave it to Tanji down the stretch. Had a very tough shot over BYU's probably his best defender, Maywat Mag. Absolutely clamps on defense. But don't let the score take away from what John Tanji did. Finished with 37, probably one of the best March Madness performances we've seen in forever. Unfortunately, it was just him and Blackwell versus BYU, Richie Saunders, cold ass white boy. I mean, this dude just gets buckets in every way possible. Threes, driving, off the screen, catch and shoot, just does it all. He is an absolute dog. They're just surrounded by absolute shooters, and then Kiba Kita in the middle is an absolute unit. And then Maywat Mag, I talked about how good he is defensively. This team It's surprising to a lot of people, but they are some absolute dogs for sure.
Yeah, I love watching Richie Saunders play basketball. You said it. He just gets buckets. He is an excellent, uh, really just an excellent basketball player. But the best player on the floor was John Tonja. Unfortunately, not enough, not much help from the supporting cast. And BYU basketball, man, what an impressive season after Mark Pope leaves to go to Kentucky. A lot of question marks. They end up bringing in Kevin Young, who was an assistant with the Suns. He's been up in the NBA. He was actually the coach of the Iowa Energy for a little bit in the early 2010s. But he comes to BYU and he has done an excellent job in his first season there from Salt Lake City as well. But a ton of NIL money. They got the number one recruit coming in. BYU basketball stock is rising fast. So get some while they are here. But the last game of the region, Sam, St. Mary's, Alabama, and all I have to say is yuck.
Yeah, this game wasn't even fun to watch. Just nasty, nasty basketball. But at the end of the day, the Bear team won, Alabama. But I kind of expected them to dominate this game, and it was kind of close, if I remember correctly. It was kind of back and forth to get started, and then they kind of started pulling away there. But ugly, ugly game. But once Alabama got going, it was over.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was a 13-point game at half, and it looked like Bama had control. And then St. Mary's started to creep back, cut it. I think at one point they cut it to like 6 or 8, and then Bama got control again. Didn't look back. The Tide, you know, after after a scare against Robert Morris, kind of took control of this one against St. Mary's. St. Mary's, another team that just can't seem to get it done in March. I'm pretty impressive comeback to beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt kind of choked that one away in the first round, but yeah, Bama was just too much for the Gales. So Duke, Arizona, BYU, Alabama. Sam, give me your thoughts and give me a few winners.
I mean, obviously, Duke, Arizona, we talked about it. Caleb Love, little revenge game on Duke. Unfortunately, I think Duke is going to put on, put the classic Caleb Love show on with that defense. I think he should. This is where his hot streak ends. Duke takes care of business there. BYU, Alabama might score 100 points each. Neither team really likes to play a whole lot of defense, but I do think BYU has better defenders. I think BYU is going to pull it out over Bama. So we got Duke versus BYU in the Elite Eight.
I love that. That's pretty awesome. A pick there. I mean, this is a prime Caleb Love game spot
He's
here.
Tried to do way too much.
That's what I'm saying. So against Oregon, Love shot. Let's see. Against Oregon, Love shot the ball 18 times. Over under 23 and a half shots for over. You're just smashing the over. Is there a number in the 20s that I could say that you're not smashing the over? I mean,
I think he shoots about 25.
25. All right. And how many of them does he make? 10. It's a little more than that. I was gonna go with give me an 8 for 25.
But he tries so hard, no one else scores, so they get blown out.
They get blown out. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. Duke's just way too strong. Don't see it happening at all.
You can put Tyrese Proctor on him. You can put Knipple on him. You can put Cooper Flag on him, dude. It could be ugly.
Yeah, it could be. It could be very ugly, and I think it will be very ugly.
Yeah.
But moving on, I can see the BYU vision. I'm not going to do it personally. I'm just going to roll with Bama. Mark Steers, you're and the more experienced Bama team coming off of that Final Four run. But I love that BYU pick, and I can see the vision for sure. But moving on to the Midwest region, the last of the regions. Looking at the first round games,
Trash.
absolutely trash.
I mean, we got a 12-5 upset, and they won by like what 20-25, like pure dominance by McNeese.
Yeah,
That,
well,
like
it was the when because Clemson kind of made the run at it. I think they only won by like 2, but it was from like a last second 3 that
that's true.
made it.
Clemson,
The final score was 2. McNeese had a 20-point lead in the second half.
Yeah.
Right, and
I forgot it got close.
Yeah. And holy crap, that is a lot of red. I just scrolled to it in my bracket. It is nothing but red. Really tough region for your boy. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that it was a 12-5 upset and one in which the 12 seed was not favored. And we still felt like we got robbed of a good game because they just from the tip, they just beat the living crap out of them. Again, Clemson with the run. They won by 2. It was never that close. Clemson did make a run at the end. But the first round was tough. The first round was really tough. Some scores. Houston beat SIUE by 38. Gonzaga beat Georgia by 21. Another game that I was pretty excited for.
Underseeded as hell.
Underseeded as hell. That McNeese Clemson we covered. Purdue beat High Point. Score was 12. I think it was like 5 or 6 at half. Blew the doors off them in the second half. Illinois beat Xavier by 13. Again, wasn't as close as 13. UCLA beat Utah State by 25. I was back and forth on that game. I thought Utah State had a chance. I did go with UCLA, thank God, but just an absolute obliteration. And then obviously Tennessee beat Wofford by 15. So really brutal first round. The second round, however, that one was a little better. Emphasis on a little better. Houston Gonzaga was awesome.
Yeah, it came down to the final shot. That didn't happen. Khalif battle. Fumbled the last second shot. That I thought that was going to be the moment.
Yep.
The like one shiny moment, if you will. I thought that was going to be it. Unfortunately, Khalif battle couldn't get his hands on it. Tough shot. Not a great set. But
No.
Houston survives. That was the first game. I was like, oh, so Houston is beatable. That'll be fun to see if that. Unfortunately, I don't see them losing this next one. For when you ask me who eventually wins the next one, but yeah, the crazy game. Unfortunately, didn't end in the most dramatic fashion, but good game.
Yeah, it was a great game. Obviously, the last possession that we had talked about. Shout out LJ Cryer. He was absolutely incredible this game. Dropped a 30 piece, 8 for 15 from the field. Absolute dog.
I feel like he is not talked about.
He is not nowhere near talked about.
He's an ass.
Nowhere. I tell you what, and hand up. I'm one of them. I had them losing this game, which, based on the score, wasn't the worst prediction in the world. But Houston as a whole, the whole talk, Auburn was the best team in the country for most of this, pretty much all year long.
Yeah.
Florida is the hottest team in the country. Duke probably has the most talent. They're the most dominant.
For sure.
No one's talking about Houston. No one's talking about Houston. And they have, 4 losses, and I think one of them was only 1 in regulation.
Yeah.
Dominated the Big 12, won the Big 12 championship, won the regular season.
4 games in the regular
Literally.
season. Like, it wasn't even close.
I picked him to lose. I'm part of the problem. Hand up. But LJ Cryer is freaking awesome. 30 piece for him. The one issue, Houston scored 81 in this game. Guess how many bench points they had?
12.
4.
Oh.
4 bench points.
Yeah, that's not good.
4 bench points. So, you're going to need the supporting cast to step up for sure. But the starters, obviously, they were excellent. Top to bottom, they scored 77 points from the starters. So some dogs for sure.
Kelvin
Sampson, again, not talked about enough. The entire program isn't. Another trip to the Sweet 16 for the Houston Cougars. Next game, McNeese Purdue. First game of the day. on that Saturday was standalone.
That was terrible.
It was terrible. It was a terrible game. Ended up being a 14-point game at the end of it. After it was all said and done, was never that close.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I mean,
I was getting old with Amir. I ain't gonna lie. No hate to kid, get that bag, but like, let's not force it.
That's the best way to put it. The jumpsuit with aura on the back.
Jeez, the least amount of aura.
Jeez, man. Yeah, that was tough.
We always have that like one character,
Sister Jean,
right? Like that is what I'm gonna compare. That wasn't. It was just like some grandma like figure. Like everyone.
It was wholesome. It wasn't some nerd walking out to rap. Like, you know what I mean?
It was. I will say it's pretty freaking cool. When I first saw them do it, I was like, okay, hell yeah. But then it was just shoved down my throat every 30 seconds. I was like, all right. Kind of like that Allstate commercial.
That damn piggy, man. Fun fact, he did cry wee 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 all the way home for all those wondering. But it got old for sure. But obviously McNeese going down, Will Wade, as we all expected, and was reported. He is on to NC State.
I will say, shout out him though. He's like straight up, I'm leaving. This is your tryout to come with me, which I respect the hell out of.
And a really impressive coaching job knowing you're leaving.
Yeah.
Obviously took care of business in game one, and you could see the emotion after the game when he lost. Like it was hype. And then when they lost, the emotional side of it too. It was clear to him that these games at McNeese meant something.
Yeah,
which
is rare.
Which is rare and something I did not expect personally. I know we all know Will Wade's history.
Yeah,
kind of felt like he would just be all right, move on. I'm on NC State, and it didn't seem that way. So I was impressed with the coaching job of Will Wade. He could certainly coach a basketball team. But yeah, he's going to NC State, and I'm sure a bunch of the players will. The manager will also be following him to NC State. So at ACC, you have some boombox walkouts to look forward to over at NC State. But moving on to the next game, Kentucky handled business against Illinois for the first time since 2019. The Kentucky Wildcats are headed to the Sweet 16.
Whoa. Yay! I mean, this was like a 9-point game. When you shoot 28% from three. I mean, this was kind of the story with Illinois. Like when they're hot, they can beat anybody, but once they go cold, it's ugly. It's ugly.
You absolutely nailed it. I mean, if they're making shots, you look at this team, you're like, who's going to beat this Illinois team? When they're missing shots, you're like, who can this Illinois team beat? And obviously, we watched it in the Big Ten tournament against Iowa. They beat the piss out of them. They shot the ball well from three, didn't miss. This game they did. They missed a lot. They shot 28% from 3, 9 for 32. They put it up in high volume as well to only make 9. Like 28%, if you shoot 15 of them, you can live. When you shoot 32 of them, that's tough. That's tough to
let it fly.
That they do let it fly, no doubt about it. Interesting spot for Illinois basketball. Those really, really good teams. I believe they were an Elite 8 team last year. Because didn't they beat Iowa State in the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I think so.
So they were an Elite 8 team last year with Terrence Shannon. They were a 1 seed with Ayu Dosunmu when they lost to Loyola Chicago. So they've had a ton of talent over in Illinois. Maybe not the most to show for it.
Yeah.
So
you hate to see that.
You really do. I'm just absolutely devastated for the Illinois Fighting Illini. But the man of the hour, Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats. So funny to me how we spent all offseason with this weird coaching triangle. Calipari goes from Kentucky to Arkansas, Pope from BYU to Kentucky. All 3 teams intertwined. All 3 of them are in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's going to be hard not to measure success comparing these teams against each other for sure. But all 3 of them, like we said, to the Sweet 16. And in terms of Kentucky, man, kind of a balanced performance. I mean, Kobe Bray was awesome, right?
Yeah.
He was probably their best player. But I think we can all agree, and that just this team looks different when Lamont Butler is healthy.
Yeah, absolutely lockdown, clamps defender. He's an absolute dog. He's on San Diego State when they made that Final Four
Yep.
run.
He hit the shot.
Just absolute dogs. Kentucky forced to be reckoned with this next Sweet 16 matchup. It's gonna be very fun.
Boy, is that juicy, because moving into the last round of 32 matchup, Tennessee, UCLA.
Kind of a snooze fest.
Again, another snooze. Like Tennessee.
It's close, like close-ish.
Right.
It never seemed that UCLA was out of it, but it never felt like they could make a comeback at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, it was really close, like back and forth, each team taking the lead. Second half was when Tennessee really took control of things. And then that second half, it was kind of like we said, like they just kept them at arm's length. It was always 6-8, and ended up not even really ballooning, ended up at a 9-point game at the end of it. But yeah, Tennessee does it on defensive end again, holding UCLA to 58 points. A team in that last round that scored much higher than that, 72 in a blowout against Utah State, and didn't really play their starters because they were beating them so bad down the stretch. So a really impressive defensive performance for Tennessee. And yeah, I mean, it's a team that really likes to get after on the defensive end. Interestingly enough, for Tennessee in this game, Meshiak, Milicic, Akpara, they only had 6, 4, and 4. Really impressive performance from Lanier and Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Putting up 35 combined and about half of their 67 points. But that sets up, of course, Kentucky and Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Kentucky has already beaten the Volunteers twice so far this season. Is it actually hard to beat a team 3 times? Is that something coaches say? Who knows? But we will find out in this game. Absolutely electric. Couldn't ask for a better atmosphere. These two teams do not like each other. And I believe this game is being played in Indianapolis as well. So both teams, it's travel distance for both teams.
Yeah.
Unfortunate that of the teams that are playing in Indiana in their pod, Houston, the number 1 seed, is by far the furthest away.
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
That is unfortunate for sure. But Sam, I'm going to need some thoughts and predictions. Houston, Purdue, we'll start there.
Yeah, I think Houston's going to take care of Purdue. One of the most underrated teams all year. We talked about them at length. LJ Cryer. The bench points is a little concerning, but I think Houston is just a better team. I don't think he'll play that big of a role in this game. In Kentucky, Tennessee, I expect to be absolutely disgusting basketball, like 58-56. But I think Tennessee has the best offensive player, Chaz Lanier. I expect him to be the difference maker for the Volunteers. So give me Tennessee in this one.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, looking at this Houston-Purdue game, I mean, to me, it just Purdue's offense has been driven by Kaufman-Renn on the inside. We all know how good Braden Smith is. It seems like really the post play for Purdue has been the catalyst for them thus far. I think Braden Smith's going to really, I mean, not that he can't, he's done it many times. They're going to need to have the game of their life to take out this Houston team. I mean, LJ Cryer has been on an absolute run. I just think, I guess it depends on the metrics, whatever metric you look at it on who's the number 1 defensive team in the country. I think some of them do support Houston. So I'm going to say the number 1 defensive team in the country. I just think they're able to handle those two in Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith. And they win this game comfortably as well. And then Kentucky and Tennessee. This game is freaking awesome. I think I agree. I just think Tennessee they just have the more threats, and I do think it is hard to beat a team 3 times. And I think the Volunteers are believing in themselves now, and a little bit of a different after that SEC tournament run to the championship. Now handling a couple games comfortably, playing a familiar opponent. I think the moxie on Tennessee right now is at an all-time high, and I like the Volunteers to move on, setting up a Houston, Tennessee
Yeah.
1-2 in the Elite Eight. But I feel like we do need to have a conversation about the state of March Madness, Sam. Are you disappointed? I think that's a good way to start. Are you disappointed with this year's bracket?
No. Um, I'm not. I can see why people are. I'm college basketball by far my favorite sport, so I love these matchups. Like I love the BYU Bam. Like I like seeing good teams play other good teams and not seeing 25-point blowout in the 16 in the Sweet 16. But obviously I love a good upset sprinkled here and there, and we just really haven't seen that. So I see why people have been kind of disappointed, but I think people need to understand where this is probably the most competitive March Madness we've seen in a very long time because we don't have those Cinderella teams, which I would say is freaking awesome. Like I think this Elite Eight Final Four is going to be some of the best basketball we've seen in how many years in college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed. To answer the question, am I disappointed? Maybe slightly. It, I I do think the thing that puts March over the edge is not only do you get the best of the best compete against each other in the end, but in the beginning you have those upsets. Obviously, this year we didn't, but there's something about going back to Norfolk State, Lehigh, Oral Roberts, St. Peter's celebrating after beating a top seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, UMBC. To me, there's something missing when that doesn't occur. But I agree with you that after you won one, after we get that moment, if the better team wins in the next round and we have the best of the best in the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, and then on, I'm okay with that. So am I disappointed? No, maybe slightly, but just BYU, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee. These games are going to be freaking awesome, man. Even Ole Miss, Michigan State.
Yeah.
These games rock. These games absolutely rock, and I could not be more excited. Now, the only thing that would be, do you think we are where we are today because of the transfer portal?
That's an interesting question, man. I mean, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say yes. Like, I know, what's his name? From New Mexico,
Donovan Dent?
Donovan Dent. He entered the
Yeah, in the
transfer
portal.
portal. He's gonna be on Power Five, Power Four, whatever it is now.
Most likely, yeah.
He's gonna be a starter. I mean, yeah, I think it does affect it, but I also think that's an interesting. I think
Yeah.
it does affect it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, look, do I wish the transfer portal was the way it is currently? No. Do I think it's like this all-encompassing evil that will eventually engulf the sport into nothingness? No. I will always watch college basketball. I will always love college sports. I always love specifically the University of Iowa in their athletics just because of what college sports mean to me and what they mean to, a lot of people. And the passion in college sports, I think, is truly unmatched. I do think it has something to do with it. I think the main thing is that I think that really the only material advantage that some of these mid majors had in the first round of March Madness was that a lot of them were upperclassmen. They had been playing together for a few years while, Kentucky, Duke, they always had the hotshot freshmen that would come in. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes the more seasoned team would be able to beat maybe the more talented team that had the freshmen. Obviously, now anyone from these mid majors is transferring out as they get to upperclassmen. So sure, that is having an effect. And like you said, it's just, I don't think you simply can't deny that it is, but
I also think the same can be said on the flip side. Yes,
Crazy talent.
crazy talent could
The
start at Duke or
the
and they just aren't playing, transfer out to mid major. So it's
what the hell
interesting.
is it? The guy who went to Memphis? He was the number one, and then
Amani Bates.
Amani Bates. That's the guy I'm thinking of. That where he looks like he was going to go to Michigan State, goes to Memphis, doesn't really work out, goes to like Eastern Michigan or
Yeah.
something, and then plays there for a little bit. For sure. So it
Also, I'd like to say it's absolutely absurd the transfer portal opens.
yeah, it's
Monday.
again, it just we talked
We
about
need
it.
to I don't think the transfer portal is a bad thing, but definitely needs some reconstructing and some fines. Like I think
Yeah,
it's absolutely absurd
tampering
that
is
a
ridiculous.
tampering one and the fact someone can transfer to 5 different or 4 or 5 different schools within their collegiate career is absolutely absurd.
And someone on Michigan is in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Michigan is playing in a Sweet 16
Content.
game this weekend.
That's D1 hate.
That is
I
D1A.
respect it.
That is D1A. But we'll say it. I mean, we said it during football season. Crunch times keys to steadying the transfer portal. Number one, the most obvious one. Transfer portal opens when the season ends.
Insane.
Free
That's
agency.
absurd of you to say.
Free agency starts when the season is over. Crazy take, I know.
I saw someone say, like, imagine if NFL free agency opened during wild card weekend.
Like, that's crazy. Dude, imagine if like the Lions were on their run and like, the Lions right tackle, like, Penny Sewell was just like, yeah, I'm a free agent, by the way. You can like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And then the other one, you get one free one. You get one free transfer. Then after that, you have to do the year. You have to do the city year.
I like it.
Or
I will say one caveat would be if the coach.
I love that you said that. I totally agree. If you commit to playing somewhere and moving somewhere for someone, you should be able to follow them to their next spot. I agree with that. And I think that again, the NCAA could have a common sense committee and be like, hey, I think this transfer is reasonable. You're good to go.
Yeah.
Or look at it and be like, okay, dude, you're ridiculous. You're doing this for money. You got to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work just fine. But, alas, what seemed like obvious rules to us don't seem like that to the NCAA. But before we get into this or that, there are a few head coaching moves out there. I think there are 3 of the notable ones. I guess okay. So I think the biggest domino to drop was Darian DeVries. He is going to Indiana to take over the Indiana Hoosiers head coaching job. Speaking of tampering, this may have been a scenario where this played a part.
Yeah, just maybe. Openly admitting they've been in not flat out saying it, but saying it is absolutely absurd that they've been in talks all season. Yeah, I think is what his direct quote.
His direct quote was he was thankful to Indiana for allowing him to focus on his season while they were in talks.
So this begs the question.
I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but if he's focusing on the season, that means he's in season. That would be tampering.
Did he sit out his son?
Now, West Virginia fans, who, by the way, we were at odds a little bit. Iowa fans wanted Darian DeVries. It's a little fuzzy if the university did or not. Anyway, the fans were a little bit against each other on Darian DeVries. I'm 100% with you. This sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks. This sucks. And you have every right to be pissed off at Indiana for sure. But yeah, he goes to the Hoosiers, probably tampered with, but it is what it is. And some West Virginia fans did some timeline investigating and saw that kind of the word he was talking about when he first mentioned that some contact may have been made. That weekend is when Tucker DeVries was ruled out for the season with his injury. So it's some things aren't adding up here. Aren't adding up here at all. Of course, NC State got Will Wade. This was known before the tournament. The Wolfpack, obviously, a year after their Final Four run, they get someone who can certainly coach a basketball team. And seems like they will be back in contention in the ACC. Texas has a new head basketball coach as well, Sean Miller from Xavier. I believe he was at Xavier, left to go to Arizona, went back to Xavier, and has now left to go to Texas. So, yeah, really tough for Xavier. He's left you twice now. But new head ball coach in Texas. And then the big one for us, of course, Iowa has hired former Drake head coach, Ben McCollum, and obviously former Northwest Missouri State as well.
Yeah. So. It was talks for like 4 or 5 days. We never got the official announcement until yesterday. And yeah, I'm Beth gets goats, however the hell you say her name.
No. We're making a proclamation here. Beth Goats. Because she's the freaking goat.
She has done more than Barta has ever done. I personally didn't think she was going to be able to pull this off. I think he was one of the most sought after, if not the most sought after, coach. And yeah, I'm shocked we got him. But
yeah,
he had his first press conference. He was introduced today. He loves Iowa.
He does.
He's a diehard.
He does.
I think is exactly what Iowa needs. I was a little hesitant, but on this hire, but I'm fully bought in now. He's got a lot of work to do.
Yes, yeah, he's got. I think currently it's rumored that some of his players will be following him. Of course, headlined by Bennett Sturtz, the 6'4" point guard. Yeah, so currently he's got like 4 players on the roster, so he's got his work cut out for him for sure. But definitely, I loved his press conference. He said he loves Iowa. He's mentioning all of these Iowa basketball legend grades from Chris Street to AC Earl, all those guys. He mentioned, of course, BJ Armstrong, mentioning the head coaches that he's following and what it meant. And this was the best part of one of the best parts, because there were so many. He's mentioning the head coaches. He left out 2. He did not mention Todd Licklider. He did not mention Steve Alford.
Yeah.
He's one of us, man. He is one of us entirely. And mentioned Fran in that as well, which I know a lot of Iowa fans do appreciate what Fran did for the program. And
so we have 7 players, right? We have Chris Tadjo,
yeah.
Carter Kingsbury,
okay.
Known bucket, Jacob Kosh, Sadu Traore, Trey Buchanan, Isaiah Johnson, Irigu, the transfer from Miami. Yep. And then as of right now, we have 2 freshmen, but I assume they're going to not come.
Yeah. At the very least, they will reopen. I saw one. I don't know if he's listed on there or not. I did see one incoming freshman who reopened his
do you remember his name?
I don't.
Was it Badara Diakite or Desmond Briscoe? Because those are our 2 commits according to On3.
It might have been Desmond Briscoe. I don't know, but he said that he's reopening his recruitment, but he is not. He's keeping Iowa in the running, as he just got to reacquaint himself with the new look program and the head coach. But
do you think we bring back anybody from last year?
I think we can bring back. I think we can bring back Price Sanford. I think Josh Dix. I think there was entering the portal. I think there was a time when he thought maybe he could come back, but looking at the offers he's gotten, I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think he's coming back. I don't think Brock Harding's coming back.
No.
Riley Mulvey, not that he is a big piece. He transferred to Siena today. Owen Freeman's gone for sure, but it's going to be very interesting.
If I had to put percentages, I'm 100% confident Brock Harding and Owen Freeman are not back. Josh Dix, I'd probably put 95% confident. There's still, who knows, maybe he just wants to stay home. I have no idea, but he's a Council Bluffs boy, so maybe, I don't know, but probably not with the offers he's getting and the interest he's getting. So we'll see, but definitely some optimism in the Iowa basketball program. And he mentioned also that an investment in resources from Beth Goats and a desire to get Carver back to the building he grew up going to with people in the door and butts and seats, of course. A few other guys, I guess. Nico Medved, I mentioned, the coach of Colorado. Colorado State, excuse me. He's going to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Another former Drake head coach.
That's got to be the worst. You just produce all this talent, and you can offer them as much as you possibly. They're leaving.
Yeah, and that's the other. This really, really, really sucks for Drake. And
yeah,
I'm happy we got Ben McCollum. It's awesome. After your head coach leaves, you find a diamond in the rough essentially, and then he leaves again. That sucks really bad. So, yeah. Drake fans, I'm not really sorry we took your coach, but I acknowledge that this sucks.
Yeah,
I acknowledge that this sucks for sure. But if there's anyone equipped to make a head basketball coaching hire, it is their athletic director, Holden.
Yeah, Holden, something.
Yeah, who is really good at his job. And I listened to him talking about the situation, and he was incredibly respectful, as well as he said Ben McCollum was. So it seems like there's a lot of respect to go around, while also acknowledging that, yeah, that sucks. But I think that was it on the head coaching carousel here. So shall we do some this or that to wrap up the episode? All right, we'll start off. Sam, would you rather win on a full court buzzer beater or survive 5 overtimes?
I think I'm gonna go with survive 5 overtimes because that is so damn rare. One of my favorite basketball games of all time is Syracuse UConn, 7 overtimes. We haven't seen anything like that since. So I'm gonna go survive 5 overtimes here.
This depends for me. If I'm a player, obviously I want the full court because I don't want to play all that much.
Yeah.
If I'm a fan of a team in the game, I would probably go with the full court shot because I probably have a heart attack after 5 overtimes. As a neutral fan, 100% give me the 5 overtimes. So it depends on where we sit. I assume I'm going to say a fan of the team. So I guess in that case, I would rather go with the buzzer beater. But as a neutral fan, absolutely 5 overtimes would be awesome. That UConn Syracuse game at the Garden, as you mentioned, comes to mind. One of the best college basketball games of all time. Watched it a million times growing up, the highlights of it. Pretty electric stuff. But the next one, I like this one. Would you rather watch every game with no sound or only watch the last 2 minutes of every game?
Watch every game with no sound. I don't think it's, except sometimes the last 2 minutes are the best part, but then you have games like Duke versus Mount St. Mary's, just absolute blowouts. So the 2 minutes would suck. So I'm gonna go with no sound.
Yeah, I'm going no sound pretty comfortably as well. I mean, during March Madness, we have multiple TVs, so 2 or 3 of the games we're watching with no sound anyway. We've gotten pretty trained at it. So I agree. No sound is the way to go there. But would you rather go undefeated all season and lose in the tournament or barely make the tournament and win it all?
At the end of the day, I want to win the championship. So give me the second option. Barely making it, but win it all.
Yeah. Championship or everything. Banners fly forever. Give me the championship as well. But an undefeated season would be pretty cool. But give me the championship for sure. But Sam, would you rather an old school defensive slugfest or a modern 3-point shootout?
Yeah. Low key, like St. John's, Arkansas was the most disgusting offensive game I'd seen in a very long time, but it was so fun to watch. And when I think of modern 3-point shootout, I think of NBA, and I hate the NBA. It's kind of the worst. So give me the old school defensive slugfest.
I could not agree more. Shocking the two college basketball fans are going to say that, but no, you're right. Like that Arkansas St. John's, disgusting. Give me 15 of them right now. I'll watch that 10 times out of 10. Something about just like, so aggressively going in the lane off the dribble, a big guy, jumping straight up with his arms up, contesting, contorting in the air, trying to draw a foul, finish around the big, like it's just, to me, that's when I think of basketball. That's what I think of. I don't think of, up and down and you just launching threes all day. Like some teams do, obviously, mostly in the MLB. So I definitely agree. Or MLB, Jesus Christ, in the NBA, definitely the modern 3-point shootout. But the last one of the episode, would you rather win a free trip to the Final Four, but you can't watch any of the games leading up to it, or watch every game, but you cannot go to the national championship?
Yeah, this one's kind of difficult because like Final Four would be amazing, especially for free. But not being able to watch, like if Iowa or Arkansas or like Wake Forest doesn't make it, I have no storyline to get behind. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm gonna go with watch every game, but it's a lot closer than I thought it'd be.
I'm 100% serious. Like we all say it, but my two favorite days of the year is when there's basketball not 24/7, but for 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
And I'm not sacrificing that for anything. As you mentioned, obviously, we're optimistic with the Ben McCollum hire. I don't think Iowa is making a national championship anytime soon. And really, I mean, it would be cool to go to a Final Four. It would be really cool to go to a national championship game. But really, the only reason where I'd be like, I need to be at this national championship game now is if Iowa's playing in it. I don't think they will. So not being able to go probably isn't all that big of a consequence. So I'm taking watching basketball my favorite 2 days of the year. And they were awesome, specifically in college, because they always lined up with spring break. So you never had school and you could just be a vegetable all day long. But that is going to wrap it up for episode 162 of Crunch Time. Of course, talked about a lot of things, mainly college basketball. I made this mistake earlier. It was a couple rounds. It was, I'm not going to call it good. I'm not going to call it bad. It was a couple rounds of basketball that was nonstop. Some absolutely unquestionably really good basketball games in there. And of course we do have that buzzer beater as well for Maryland, but, make sure to follow the podcast on X, TikTok, and Instagram at crunchtime_pod. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube Crunch Time with the N326 duo. But the clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.
Yeah.